All right, so this is the next video on how to construct your introduction. So since the body is done, the next easiest place to go is the introduction. Remember, this is just construction. This is just the bones. It's very simple. You need to go back and you still need to add in your full sentences, and you need to go back and add in your research and things like that. Again, not a manuscript, but just a full sentence outline. All right, so start with the introduction. The first part of the introduction is called the attention getter. So what usually happens is when we stand up to give a speech, the first thing we want to say is, "Hi, my name is Tracy, and my speech today is going to be about my time on the forensics team." You don't want to do that, okay? You don't want to preface your thesis and then get our attention, because if you do that, then what's the point, really, you know? So you want to get our attention, get the wheels turning in our head. Gee, what are they going to talk about? And then give us your thesis. So grab our attention first. How can you do that? You can tell a story. You can tell a joke. Make sure it's appropriate. Make sure it's funny. Test it out on your most honest friend. Ask, is this funny? No, move on. Okay, because if you start off your speech with a joke and no one laughs, and no one's going to laugh because we're in the middle of a pandemic and you're just giving this speech to a camera. But let's say you were giving this in front of an audience and you opened with a joke and nobody laughed. It's going to feel like a really long next couple minutes, and you don't want to start your experience off that way. So grab an honest buddy and test it out. You can ask a question. You can ask a direct question or a rhetorical question. A direct question is when you actually want your audience to respond, either physically or verbally. And a rhetorical question, you just want the wheels turning. You want to get them to start thinking about it, but you don't want them to respond. If you ask a question, which is typically the way students like to start their speeches, do it slowly. Okay, so if you ask a direct question, how many of you have ever been involved in an extracurricular activity? For the example, let's say, ask that question and wait for your audience to respond. Okay, but since we're not actually responding, you can still use a direct question, but wait a couple seconds and then move on to your thesis. If you're going to ask a rhetorical question, which is just going to get our wheels turning, once you ask the question, count to 5 and then move on, because you actually want your audience to get involved. And if you ask the question and you just fly through it, well, then it's not effective. And part of the way that you earn points, part of the way that you show your competency level is by being effective. Okay, so slow down the questions, let the audience actually respond. Okay, you can use a quote. If you're going to quote, make sure you turn it into that oral citation, which will be in another video talking about what parts go into an oral citation. You can get your audience involved. So one time I had a student who was doing a speech about how being in the Rockford Ballet Company shaped them into the person they are today. So they asked us to stand up, and she taught us the most, I guess, simplest or most basic move of a ballerina, and we all participated. You can really do whatever you want for an attention getter as long as it's relevant to what you're talking about. Okay, and I say that because I've had students start off with these random attention getters that really have nothing to do with what their speech is. They sure got our attention, but they had nothing to do with what the actual thesis or the overall idea was about. So anything you want, as long as it has to do with our speech and it is effective. All right, so after you get our attention, your thesis comes next. And guess what? Your thesis is done because you did that speech plan. And your thesis is that central idea. So I'm going to copy and paste. Oh, it worked good. Copy and paste that into the thesis part, and I'm done. Today I'll explain how being on the forensics team has shaped me into the person I am today. Okay. Next comes your credibility statement. Your credibility statement can be established in 2 ways. You can either establish it through personal experience or through citing a piece of research. The credibility statement is in the intro because this is going to tell your audience why they should listen to you talk about whatever your topic is, for the next 5 to 6 minutes. Why are you the expert? And you need to establish that for them. Okay, so for this particular topic, how being on the forensics team shaped me into the person I am today, I can either cite my personal experience, which I believe in my example outline I do. I talk about how I was on the team, the competitions I went to, the awards that I was involved in, my coaching experience, and that establishes my credibility to talk about it. Okay. I could also cite a piece of research. I could give the definition, I could give some statistics, but really it's tied up in a nice little bow if I just talk about my personal experience. That is typically what happens when you're giving a speech, your introductory speech about an experience rather than a person. If this was a person, if I was giving this about my dad, I would definitely want to cite a piece of research, because how would I establish my credibility with personal experience about my dad besides he's my dad, so obviously I'm credible? That doesn't sound very professional. It doesn't sound very competent. So I'm going to cite a piece of research about father-daughter relationships, or the importance of having a role model in somebody's life, something like that. Okay, so think about what is going to be the most effective, personal experience or research. In the forensics case, it's personal experience. In a personal person case, it's going to be, I'm going to say, do research to be the most effective. Okay, all right, and then your preview statement is done for you because you constructed the body of your speech first, and the preview statement previews the main ideas of the body. So this statement previews the main ideas of the body. So how would that look, or how would that sound? You want to make sure you add in transitions. First, we will discuss what's main point 1, what a forensics team is, and what's main point 2. Second, add that transition. What did I... We want to still, all right, look at what I gained from the experience, period. Okay. Oops. The main ideas. Okay. Sorry about that. All right. So, oh my Atlanta. All right. So now your introduction is done. Again, go look at my examples, because I actually type out what my personal experience is. I actually type out the attention getter that I want to use, which was a story. So again, you want to put this into full sentences. But your attention getter grabs our attention. It's the first thing that should come out of your mouth. Again, don't preface your thesis. Second comes your thesis, which is done for you because you did your speech plan. So it's that central idea. Third is your credibility statement. Tell your audience why you're the expert. You can establish that through personal experience or through research. And then last in your introduction is always your preview statement. Okay, your preview statement is done because you constructed your body first. So the preview statement previews just the main ideas, not the subpoints, just the main ideas. All right, so, and to be consistent with what I did in my body, just to tell you, I told you that your body main points are about a minute 30, or a minute 30. Your introduction is about 1 minute to a minute and 15 seconds of a 5 to 6 minute speech. Sometimes that helps people when they're trying to practice. All right. So my intro's done. My body is done. Now I'm going to do my conclusion. So I'm going to do Roman numeral number 3, conclusion, and hopefully this, auto format, I loathe you. All right, cool. So your conclusion has 3 points, and everybody loves this because it's pretty much done for you. It's a big copy and paste job, said the professor, but it really is. You're going to have to get a little creative with it when you're speaking it, but in terms of the outline, it's pretty done for you, which is pretty great. So you're going to you're going to restate your thesis, so you can just copy and paste. Of course, that didn't work. You're going to copy and paste from your introduction. You want to change the tense. Today I will explain. Today I have explained about, okay. definitely go through and proofread and you know, make this very professional. I'm kind of doing this in a quick video here because I only have so much time. Review statement, which is just your preview statement from your intro. So first we looked at what a forensics team is, and second, what I gained from the experience. And then last part of your intro is your tie back to your, I'm not going to say your, attention getter. So whatever story you told, joke you started with, question you asked, whatever it was, you need to somehow come full circle. You don't just repeat it, you need to somehow reference back to it. Okay, so come full circle and mention, reference back to how you started. Okay, so if for me, let's say my direct question to my audience was, you know, how many people have been involved in extracurricular activity, I might say, to tie back, so remember at the beginning of the speech when I asked you about being involved in extracurricular activity, and some of you mentioned wrestling, some of you mentioned band, some of you mentioned chorus. Well, as you know, for me, it was being on the forensics team. So I hope for those of you that raised your hand and were kind enough to participate and told me about your extracurricular activity, hopefully your experience and whatever your activity was just as meaningful for you as it was for me. The end. Okay. Somehow it just reminds us of that question. It makes it come full circle. Your audience knows you are ready to conclude. So you want to make sure you do it and do it in that order. Restate thesis, review points, tie back to your attention getter. Okay. Again, this is just the bare bones. You can see it takes up, just those 3 sections take up, about a page, a half a page, 3/4 of a page, maybe. When it's all said and done, your outline for this particular speech, double space it. I would definitely double space it. Is going to be about a page and a half, because remember, all in the body of your speech, you want to make sure that these are in full sentences. You want to make sure you go in and you add research, and you can see that by looking at the examples that are posted in the assignment. So make sure that you do that. Okay, my goodness, these screencasts go by very fast. So my next video is going to be about transitions. Okay, transitions are super important, because how do we get from the introduction to main point 1, from main point 1 into subpoint A, from subpoint C into the next main point? How do we move through all this craziness and have it make sense? That's what the next video is going to be about. And then I think that is my last screencast for this, and then I provided you an example that was recorded pre-COVID, and I have some information for you about oral citations. So we should be good with the next video about transitions. All right, so move on to the next one.